Today, we're going to be helping our friends at A Domani to make $10,000 in 10 minutes time. Pat from Intergrowth here. I'm back with the latest of our e-commerce SEO and AEO audit series, where every week we take a look at one e-commerce challenger brand and give them a 10-minute rundown without any proprietary analytics of the biggest things that they can do to make an extra $10,000 from their website in 90 days' time. So today we're auditing our friends at A Domani, hey Katya, to give them a breakdown of what specifically we recommend doing for their site. I'm going to share my screen here and we're going to jump right in. So Katya, first thing I wanted to mention, I want to give you a shout out because you are crushing it when it comes to the SEO fundamentals. So with that, the good and bad news. Good news, you're doing an exceptional job. You haven't left a lot of money on the table on the SEO front. Maybe the even better news, depending on how you want to weigh it, is it made my life a lot harder when we were pulling together this audit. Rest assured, we have some incredible stuff for you today. We just had to think a little bit more critically about what are the things that you can actually do that are truly going to move the needle for your business. Now, specifically for this audit, this is actually going to work out really well to your favor. A lot of the other audits that you'll see that we've done are with brands that maybe are in like the 5, 10, 20 million annual revenue range. They already have an established SEO and AEO presence. And a lot of the things we're talking about in some of these other walkthroughs is quick wins you can roll out that are going to add, 5, 10K in monthly recurring revenue in a couple weeks' time. The things we're going to dive into specifically today are going to be the long-term initiatives that are going to help you to take over the industry. So with that, there is going to be more upfront work that goes into implementing these things. I'm going to walk you through exactly what you can do to start overtaking some of these much larger players in the space. So first thing I wanted to start out with is taking a look at how you currently stack up against some of the competitors in the space. I typically like to do this by looking at Google search results, looking to see who are some of the brands coming up above you. I wanted to specifically look at this for LLMs though, because this is going to give us an even more valuable data point for this specific recording. So when I run a quick little breakdown, and keep in mind, I'm logged into ChatGPT right now, so you'll see definitely different results if you run the same search on your end, and I'd encourage you to do so. But if I ask ChatGPT, hey, I'm looking for great cooling pajamas for women, which Katya, I'd argue is really like the broader positioning that you would want to go after long-term, a little bit broader than, let's say, going after the menopause angle specifically. What brand should I consider? What we're going to see is at the moment, A Domani is not listed in the picture. So we have some other competitors coming up in the space in here. These are going to be a great great set of competitors for us to reference down the road, specifically for competitive ideation, for things we might want to do for our own site. So from there, I wanted to do a deep dive to understand why didn't A Domani show up in the mix? What are some of the things that we're missing? Now, probably no surprise, the biggest thing that ChatGPT cited in here is the fact that we're still a young brand. They specifically said where I'm a little bit more skeptical after really sharing glowing reviews about A Domani. But where I'm a little more skeptical is brand maturity. So they talked about things like, hey, double check the count of reviews for various products. Look to better understand the cooling technology, things of that sort. When I see this brand maturity side of things, or they're a young brand, any sort of wording along those lines, what that really is signaling to us is that the biggest opportunity for your site is to do the things that show LLMs and also traditional search engines that you are a trusted brand for people to buy from. Now, there's going to be two massive levers that you can pull in order to achieve this. Outside of what I would say is like generally growing the business, getting more sales, getting into different retailers. But there are two like online centric things you can do that are really going to move the needle on this front. The first thing is going to be getting more high authority websites to link back to you. So you guys have already been featured on CBS, you've been featured on Oprah, and a whole bunch of other publications. The more of these publications, probably no surprise, but the more of these publications you get featured in, the more credible you're going to be to direct consumers and also to LLMs. So what I would specifically recommend doing in making this part of, call it your weekly work cadence, is sign up for a couple of these journalist quote platforms. In the show notes, I'll share a link to this expert commentary PR article that I put together that gives a really comprehensive breakdown of exactly how to do this. But in essence, what you're going to do is you're going to sign up for these platforms where journalists go to find subject matter experts that they can quote in articles they're writing about. My personal recommendation that I would personally say I spend the most time on, and we do this for clients the most often, is using this platform Quoted. You can sign up for a free account. The paid account is a little bit more expensive. Start out free, send out those handful of free pitch submissions every month. And there are a few other great platforms that we talk about in that expert commentary PR article that you can go to that are free on top of this. But go through these platforms, scour them, and look to figure out, based on your personal experience, what are the specific angles that you're qualified to inform these journalists on. This is how we get clients cited on a weekly basis in platforms like Forbes, Entrepreneur. What else do we have in the mix? We have Yahoo, MarketWatch, Travel and Leisure, and the list goes on and on. And we've gotten our own brand cited in quite a few of these as well. This is a platform that you can sign up for, and you can give your experience to these different journalists to get quoted in these publications and get the A Domani name and a link back to the A Domani site featured on all these different sites, which is going to earn you way more credibility from LLMs. So again, this is an ongoing process. My typical success rate that I would say our team will see is around 10%. So if you send 10 pitches, expect one link to come from that. Give yourself a little bit of time every week. Start making this a regular part of your cadence. This is going to be one of the fastest ways that you can build the online visibility of the brand. Next thing is going to be looking at a broad concept called query fanout. This is a very technical term, but in essence, query fanout is the process that large language models will go through when they're trying to respond to the majority of user prompts. Now, query fanout is ultimately a process where LLMs do the equivalent of like going to a search engine, pulling information about the websites and the specific pages that pop up at the top of search engine results pages for all of these queries that they believe are most likely to help them to answer a question. So query fanout is triggered in the majority of, I would venture to say, in nearly any type of search that you specifically are looking to show up for. Query fanout is coming up in the mix. The scenarios where query fanout does not come up is when LLMs have enough information in their training set that they feel very confident that they don't need to pull updated information from news sources. So think any sort of like scientific facts, maybe like legal precedents, they're likely not going to run query fanout there. Specifically for your space, they're going to be running query fanout for nearly all of these. So what we do is we run an audit to figure out what are these specific terms that LLMs are, in essence, typing into a search engine results page in order to collect informed information. And the beauty behind it is when we know what these terms are, we know that these are the types of informational pieces that LLMs are looking to actually pull information from to inform their responses and to actually cite as citations in a prompt. So if we can actually create a piece of content or a page that ranks for these types of queries in traditional search engines, we have a massive opportunity to influence how LLMs talk about our brand and to get our name actually included in the discussion. So we ran this analysis for you. So here's what we're looking at right here. So we ran this analysis to see what are those query fanout terms that come up for two very similar searches. We're going to see the data that comes up for them is nearly identical. But we ran it for cooling pajamas for women and then pajamas for menopause. What I did in here is I highlighted a handful of terms in green. I'm going to make my screen a little bit larger there, that I would personally recommend that you create a piece, if not multiple pieces of content about. So one example, what are the best fabrics for cooling sleepwear? So this would be a phenomenal educational piece of content for you to write on the blog, talking about what are the various fabrics that can be used for cooling sleepwear, and then talking about what A Domani uses in particular. This would be a really great place to talk about your sourcing. Like if you think back to the podcast we did, call it a year and a half ago, you went super granular into where you're actually sourcing your products from, all of the deliberate decisions that went into the specific textile firm that you've been working with. This would be an exceptional blog topic idea. And then if you can start ranking at the top of Google from a great educational piece of content that also weaves in what A Domani does, you gain this huge opportunity to then get cited for all these. And then from there, increase the likelihood that ChatGPT and these other LLMs perceive you as an expert in the space and are far more likely to recommend you over some of these other brands. So run through this list. A few others that I want to speak to. Some of them will be straightforward looking through this list, just educational topics, bamboo versus cotton, cooling pajamas. What are the pros and cons of each of those? I want to talk through this one specifically in here because this is a really great broader content opportunity. What you can do is if you run a search on all sorts of different SEO tools, what you're very likely to find is some of these larger name competitors are going to have a decent amount of people going to search engines like Google every month and typing in phrases like competitor A versus competitor B, competitor A alternatives, things of that sort. People who are going to Google typing in these types of things are ready to make a purchase, but they're really looking to get more information about what specific product or what specific brand should they buy from. So a technique I really like here, let's take this one as an example. Soma Cooling Nights versus Cozy Earth Pajamas. You could write a full-length blog article comparing these two, add A Domani into the mix. So the article becomes Soma Cool Nights versus Cozy Earth versus A Domani Pajamas. And ultimately you do a pros and cons of all three. What's going to work really well is if you are transparent about what are your own weaknesses, what are your strengths, and then how does that compare to these other two? Especially if you're comfortable putting in a positioning element where you speak to, here's the scenario where Soma is the best option. Here's the scenario where Cozy Earth is the best option. Here's the scenario where A Domani is the best option. Putting that together is going to be an exceptional piece of content that is going to be able to rank A, in traditional search engines, and B, in LLMs. So one, most of these are going to make for really exceptional blog topics. And I'm just going to scroll down here so you can see all these that are in the list as well. You can, pause the video and be able to take a screenshot of all these topics. What really excites me about this is one, huge opportunity to create blog content about this. Two, since some of these brands are going to have way more trust signals, they're going to have more links pointing back to them, they're going to have more site history associated with them, there's going to be a little bit of a barrier to entry to start ranking here. So the angle I would actually specifically recommend for you is leverage other social channels, specifically think like Instagram, where you have a really strong following, to create content for these channels that is designed to perform well in these channels and ultimately rank in these channels. So one example, how to choose pajamas for hot flashes. What I would love to see you do is put together a video. Similar to this one. I'm literally using my iPhone to record this. And then I just have, the same podcast mic that I use for the podcast. Put together a YouTube video of yourself sitting down. Maybe it's even holding up one of your sets of pajamas and talk through what are the specific things that someone should look into to help them decide what set of pajamas is right for them. That could be talking about various fabric options, could be talking about different material cuts, you name it. Turn it into a long form YouTube video. And then what you could also do is you could even create shorter form versions of that just speak to one little segment of that, post that on Instagram, post that on TikTok to boost the visibility in all those different places. Specifically for your case, and fact check me on this one, but I would imagine there's a pretty decent audience size on Pinterest for your brand. I would love to see you create a couple little graphics that actually insert A Domani pajamas that could actually be designed to rank for this type of thing as well. So picture answering that topic of how to choose the best pajamas for hot flashes, turning that into a visual graphic that you can upload to Instagram in hopes of actually starting to rank in there. Again, fact check me on this one. My gut says that Instagram is probably ranking really well for a lot of these themes that you want to rank for. With that, I am significantly over on time. So I'm going to wrap up from here. Katya, as always, reach out if there's anything I can help clarify in here. I really want to see you crush it with this stuff. Please create these educational pieces of content. Again, YouTube videos, Instagram videos, TikTok videos, YouTube shorts, those two broad formats. So long form video for YouTube, short form video for Instagram, TikTok, YouTube shorts is really going to knock it out of the park here. If you want to have the icing on top, convert these into blog articles, publish them on your website as well. This is going to work really well for you. Please do this. Get featured on, or get some of these expert commentary PR pitches out on a regular basis. These two things alone will help you to grow like crazy. With that, I'm going to wrap up the recording from here. So that's all that we have for today. Per usual, I went a little bit over on time, but for everyone checking this out, hope you found it helpful. If you'd like us to audit your website next, you can email us audits@intergrowth.com. Once again, that's audits@intergrowth.com. And don't forget to check out the description. We'll have a link to that expert commentary PR article and some other good resources if I can come up with some other stuff after recording this video. That's all for today. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you again soon.